I was too fast.
Yeah.
All right, so we killed him. Da-da-da. And now, obviously, because we have Thor, who is amazing and that never does a mistake, he gives us the exact percentage of the ult tracking. I'm just kidding. It was saying, right, for this exercise here, we have like perfect ult tracking. So now it's basically my question: what is the fight plan? What could be a possible fight plan? Just one thing. There is no right answer. There are multiple thousand of different fight plans, whatever.
Yeah.
But I want one. So what could be a fight plan?
Okay, so I would like to walk top left with the Orisa. So there you go. So I would want to walk up the top left stairs here, and then we can potentially split our team at this point when we get to the little like crossroads. So our the Orisa and Bap goes right, and then the Sigma and Sen can go left, like this. And then we can pop a window from the top right. Yeah. Yeah, missing kind of a when here.
Yeah, like again, obviously, like one thing, right? Like, and of course this makes sense because we're in a world view, we have unlimited time. Of course, we can make it more detailed, but I assume that you would not make it as detailed in the fight, right? Like, how would you communicate the
Yeah.
plan in the fight?
I would probably say something like walk up left stairs and then split. Probably something like that.
I don't know, like just make we make this once detailed, and then the next time we make it not so detailed anymore.
Yeah.
But I think this is great, right? I think hopefully everybody can agree that this is a clear where. I think it's really clear for us to say what. Obviously, the split, you don't say exactly who goes where, but to be honest, at the end of the day, we have like players with their own brain. So obviously, okay, we just make this a split here. We all know how the strategy works. I would expect this from the team that we know, okay, like, right, that we know that we're not making here, like, the important information here is that we're not going one way as 6, which definitely could also be a strategy, but we decide not to. So that's the where, right? Now it's missing obviously the what and the when.
When. Yeah. So I would like to pop window in the top right, where basically where you put the line already. And then we could follow up if we all force them into like a corner or something like that. We can follow up with dragon.
Okay, great, right? Like, sorry, by the way, I made a mistake. Like, this where is wrong. The where is obviously where you put the window, right? Like, this, the what is basically we say, hey, I want to use window and dragon next fight. The where is I will use window at this location. Somehow you have to describe it.
Yep.
This is like where you put the window, and then the when, what you haven't said yet, is basically when they push out, for example. This could be a when. And these are the free information. This going up here and splitting, this is not the plan. This is at least in the model I showed, is the setup. Just one thing about this model, right? Like, I mean, I know I said this, hopefully. What I'm telling you, sorry.
Yeah. I think I got it. Like we should talk about what, when, and where before talk about setup and where to walk.
This for sure. But I also want to say, right, like, the things what I'm telling you here, they're obviously not scientific, and I'm not a, like, I don't know, I'm not a scientist. This comes from my experience, and this is not. I don't believe this is the only or the best model ever. I think this is really accurate with this cycle. Oh, look, it's even bigger. And I think it makes sense, but it doesn't mean that this is the non plus ultra everything, right? So also, like, these things, I think it makes a lot of sense. But if you, for example, talk first about the setup right here and then the plan, like, I don't give a shit. I care about, like, this model should just show you what we need to include, in my opinion, in my single opinion, and then that's it, right? Don't please. The only thing I want to say with the sentence here is, don't be so narrowed in the way of, okay, we have to do exactly this way. No. I'm just saying this is, I think, what is useful, and maybe also useful in 70% of all situations. But yeah. Okay.
Okay.
The others, any questions or like understandings? Because I talked with Dirt now a little bit. Maze G. Do
My
you?
my thought process is in terms of double shield, if we're going to split, we should already know who we split as a 3-3. And I feel like the Zen should always be with the Sig and the Ursus should always be with the BAP. And then depending on where they're coming out of, like if we're I feel like if they're so where we were on second point, then they normally come out of top right and it's quite a funnel way. I'd want the Hanzo with the Orisa, like as just a general thing, because I feel like the Widow should be off angling harder for the pick potential, and the Hanzo just better at the shield break wall. So I feel like if we have these things already in our minds, we can just like very easily call 3-3 split, Orisa right, Sig left,
Mhm.
and then obviously then we go into things like you've already said like oh when they push out we win the
Yeah.
our main core things like that.
Yeah. I understand you completely. Be careful that you do
Yeah.
not overcomplicate things in the game. Like I think what you just explained makes perfect sense, and I think
That's what I mean. Like us, like we understand that now. So then
yeah,
in the game, I can just say 3-3 split, Orisa
exactly.
right, Sig left, and then
100%, because this is
yeah,
information you cannot explain in the game. That's why we need best case also all players for what we use,
yeah,
so we can make this understanding here. So in the game, we are fine with saying these things, and obviously,
Yeah.
Envy also said something in the VOD chat.
yeah. As I was just writing it, right? You probably called Windows, so we should be ready to back off if needed. I mean, maybe not. I mean, what can I say? Like, right, like we obviously we want to use window here, right? Like in the plan that you can just communicate it, obviously to code the position, and hopefully get a positive cooldown trade. Like at the end of the day, I don't want to break like I don't want to go into a different topic again, but right, like at the end of the day, our goal is not to win fights. Our goal is to push the payload from A to B, and if this window maybe even best case gives us a pick, or we use it when they obviously push out here, and we have a positive cooldown trade, this is amazing because then this a pick delays the next fight because they have to go back, or like I don't know, if we push payload meanwhile, we don't have to push in here and get like 6 kills or something like this, right? Like the idea is okay. So, but to answer your question, like, hey, should be ready to get back? Of course, right? If we notice like this is not working, or like they also use a dragon, or like they use bongo, and we say like, now we don't want to fight it, or we don't want to invest more cooldowns, whatever, then of course we can just like always like kite. But this is this thing obviously nobody calls. Like the only way we would call it is that we kind of bait window here, like that they would actually call like, okay, we just bait them here with window, so they use I don't know whatever, and then we kind of kite back. But I would even say maybe is already something that is a little bit too complicated, or not complicated, but I don't like these plans as much because um, we are relying on the enemy team doing something, and this concept is never, in my opinion, a good idea. You can definitely kind of throw it in a little bit if you want to go more in details, but you never want to rely so much on our enemy team is doing something specific, so we can use this specific thing, right? Because then if they do something else, and I mean, we at the end of the day we don't know what they're about to do, we are kind of fucked. So I'm not saying bait window is terrible. Of course, you can do for bait window, but it will be hard for you to us to say like we bait window and force trans. Do we really force trans with window? Maybe, maybe not, right? But if our whole plan relies on forcing trans like this, then maybe we have something else to just kill them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how about this then? Instead of saying what we did say, like okay, we go split, like I said, and then we window early, top right in the same position, and then uh blah. If they back off, we dragon them in the tiny room, and if they don't, they push forward, then we just fucking kill them through window.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We sure, right? Like, and this is completely fine. Again, like obviously, right? You can definitely do this like this. My opinion, what I've or like this where I would like to get to at some point is that we call things like this. hey guys, okay, next fight we push, next fight we just push up and split. We use window and dragon. I window when they come out, right at this corner. So that's what I think this would be all my fight plan. Like, and obviously I think it's missing, but if we use window and dragon, and you say that, hey, I window when they come out, even though Envy cannot communicate in this way, but I trust Envy that he is the Hanzo player. He knows best how to dragon. So I trust Envy to say, hey, if they go back here, I will dragon. If he says no, it doesn't make sense because the window hasn't forced enough, the window hasn't forced the lamp or whatever. He feels like this dragon will not help, then he doesn't do it. If they push out here, they can still dragon. Like it, that's what I mean. Like it's this plan here, kind of what we use is important. So we don't overuse ultimates. For example, we don't overuse dragon with window and sigma ult. That's why we need to say, and we need to be on the same page on kind of the what, but the actual execution on the where and when doesn't really matter. And it also doesn't really matter the follow-up ult. Like obviously if we say window dragon, we obviously start with window. So that's important, like where and when to use window, because this especially is important also for Envy's dragon. That he is not because right, if we say window dragon, I generally speaking expect my piece to window first. If we say it like this.
Yes.
And then obviously Envy, even if you could communicate these things, cannot really say the where and when because it depends so much on the situation. He just knows that with window, obviously, we try to force cooldowns, best case, and he will try to follow up with a dragon to get kills. But where and when, I mean, he cannot know. He doesn't know the future. Right, it's the same thing with a craft dragon. Like our Hanzo will not communicate where he used the dragon or when. It's obviously depends so much on the graph. So yeah. Okay, we talked about this now a little bit longer. Like any like this does make sense. I hope for everybody.
Yes,
Also
it makes sense.
Yeah, also for May, because you basically brought this topic up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
Good, yeah.
Perfect. Right, then let's take a little bit look at the actual execution also on the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
And then again, obviously here, like we can take a look. There are 1,000,002 options to do it. Or different ways of doing it. Let's see what we do. I can already say here, without even knowing the result, I'm not the biggest fan. Why I'm not the super biggest fan is because we had a lot of opportunity to take space, and we don't really have space yet, right? Like now they're pushing out here, now they're coming out, and it's for free. They do not have to fight for the space. Right? There's no cooldown trade going on, and I think we had the time. Like remember we talked last about, right? Or like we are basically defending right now. We are the defender team. And as a defender, what's the biggest advantage you have compared to the attacker?
You get to set up ahead of time.
Exactly. Like we choose kind of where to fight. And obviously we want to push payload. So if we can fight here, this is amazing because then we can push payload during we fight. That's the best case scenario. Obviously we don't want to fight and spawn because the position is just shit. But I would just basically look for the best case position. So I don't know. Even if my Sigma stays here or stuff like this, I'm fine. Right? Like he stays here at the start, and then I don't know, somebody else stays here for the start, and somebody else stays here for the start, or whatever. We push payload, and then they push us, and obviously then okay, I will just move back, because like I don't know, my Senna doesn't even have LS, but this kind of already uses we use shield reverse to escape, and we use some things. We had the potential of getting some headshots from the other sides, like. Right, like it's not so free as right now.
So in a comp like this, would you say like BAP pushes payload, and then because BAP can just jump up to high gun whenever needed, you can just like leave payload whenever. But if like Orisa pushes payload, then they have to make a big rotation.
What do the others think?
I don't know. I feel in terms of mobility, I guess, but like if we lose the BAP, we're down such it's such a big disadvantage.
Yeah, but the BAP is like all the way in the back.
Wait, where's the payload? Oh, all the way that far back. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the BAP is like the safest person on the team, right? Because you like we talk
no,
about
flank
okay,
raiders
are
go-
the
flank raiders
Orisa
go
and the
crazy
Sigma
with
like
it at
walk
some
up ahead of time, right, and set up in these high ground positions?
On this point, I guess, yeah, but I think as a general, we shouldn't have it as a general. I don't think we should have it as a general thing because there's other parts of like maps where if we're playing against snipers, they can just like hard off angle, hard flank, and just pick the map and then win the fight. I feel like that's
Okay.
a bit too risky. I mean, in this situation, yeah, I understand what you're saying because the flank routes are very well, very easily denied. But if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense, but I think it's not a good argument because obviously the Baptiste can also play safe around the payload and anti-LOS. But I think what is like also to pick up like what Envy said with like maybe here I suggest here's Hanzo. At this point, I would just say no, you're both just wrong, because our plan is Window Dragon. So of course I do not want to have
Right.
the Baptiste or the Hanzo at the point because they need to be in the best position for them to use the ultimate. It doesn't mean that we have to use the ultimate immediately when they push out, right? This is kind of the plan that we have. But the Baptiste, like if we say we want to window card, okay, sure, the Baptiste stays on card, right? But it depends on the plan. Like if we have, like maybe there's a situation where the Sigma stays point because we have to make a plan where we use like this two ultimates. Generally speaking, if we have any kind of if you really want to have a general rule, which obviously is subjective or situational, I would say the Zenyatta is the one that stays on card. Why? Because the Zenyatta is the one with the least amount of mobility, like is the one that has least amount of mobility. So he's the one that should always be in the safest position, right? Whenever you have a position like this, 2 angles and a main, who is mostly on angles? I mean, it's mostly Sigma plus something. It is a main is obviously mostly the Orisa plus a Sen, and then there is a Hanzo alone, or I don't know, a 2-man group or something like this. And why is this? Like mostly Baptiste. Why is this? Because obviously Orisa and Sen are two characters have almost no mobility, especially if the shield is like really like stationary, right? So and the Zenyatta is also not only that he has the lowest mobility, he's also like obviously an amazing heal. He needs to have LOS to both sides all the time, and this is sometimes mostly easier to accomplish if you're in the middle than if you're here as a Sen, because then you can maybe not like why do you need to have heal LOS all the time? Because of your orb, right? So that's the main reason, in my opinion, why if you want to have a general rule, it should be the Sen. But if the Sen has trance and we know they have flux or something like this, yeah, then of course I put my Sen here to get ready to trance the flux instead of putting on payload, right? But again, like it's really a really situational thing. If you say like, you know what, I'm Baptiste, I want a window here, yeah, of course then you can push payload and then just jump up and window. Like we have to be practical about this. And obviously the Sen can already stay here if you want. But yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Or the window stays point, whatever. Sorry, I need to. There you go. Right. So other than obviously them being able to take a lot of space here, like this, I think this is the first Orisa shield she puts. It's already literally in our face. I think the positioning is quite okay, right? We have like the off angle here. We have us pushing. Obviously, I would love it if the Orisa is up here instead, because you can always have the option, right? You always have the option to drop down from a high ground. You never have the option to go up. That's the main difference. Like I obviously understand this is a way more offensive position here, but obviously you would already like force them here. And if you notice, like, hey, I get attacked, and then you have the option either I go back here and hide somewhere here. If you say, no, I cannot do it, then you can always drop down, right? But the thing is, if you start once here, you can never go up.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, other than this, I think it's fine. I don't know why they dropped. I don't know. Was this
They got pulled.
This was
Diego
amazing.
pulled them down.
This was an amazing pull down. This was really amazing because this allowed our Sigma to push. If not, our Sigma could not kind of sustain this. Because if I would be an enemy team, I wouldn't give a shit about this Orisa at all. I would take care of this Sigma, push it out, and then I have my Sigma here with somebody else, and it's like control like this. I think this is where the end of the day, how you win or lose a point, right? Sorry? Okay, I thought somebody wanted to say.
I didn't say anything.
So yeah, but yeah, no, about this, I think completely fine, right? I think doing great. We also push out there. Obviously now we get a pick, right? We also use the dragon to get even more space, which is great. And obviously now comes this, which is not easy. This kind of this fluent rotations, right? This where we, it's kind of like football. If I don't know if you ever played football, but sometimes you want the players to walk like this just to confuse the enemy, but also to still have this like angles and so on and whatever. It's kind of the same, right? We have our kind of our little of our groups, which object can change. At the end of the day, I don't care how you position. I care that you shoot from different angles, and especially when we fluently change or we fluently push towards or like push forward, it's not easy to maintain this space, especially in a formation that makes sense. Right, for example, like as we can see, might not be the best kind of split we did. Again, this is mostly experience. Like this is something we can look at here, and I think we can objectively say this is maybe not the best position for like how we played it. Or does somebody disagrees?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think like maybe swapping the Zen and the Sig would be good. For
Yeah,
instance.
like for example, like the Zen just walks with the Sigma, right? The Hanzo can go here if you want. There's multiple options. The Sigma can stay here. The Hanzo can push out. Like, I don't know, so many things.
Yeah.
But this is something difficult and not easy to master. But this basically is the I thought about last time we talked about, okay, the first step is to understanding and this all of this and making it, especially the first thing, and this, I don't know, step 3 to have this fluent thing throughout the fight. It's something we shouldn't worry about for now. It's something that comes in the future. But I mean, this is fine. Like I think the principle we do perfectly right here. Right? Like look how much space kind of we control. Look at the enemy team. Like I would be so like shit. I don't even know where to shoot first, right? Because even this one window is not even bringing them so much because we have just so much control about kind of the space. So it's amazing, right? They have no way to hide even anywhere. So I think this is really good. And as we know, because we're playing spam, at the end of the day, we don't have to push forward. We can, of course, but we can still say, okay, we just transit and we just W into them. Definitely an option. But we just play for our position, and as we know from the strategy, right, angles versus cooldowns, and then we get the kills. Because if they have no more cooldowns, they will just die, and that's literally what happens here. They have just no more things, and we just need to stay back and chill out.
Yeah.
And kill them slowly but surely. Perfect. And the great thing is actually that we push the payload all the time, which is amazing.
As soon as you say that, we stepped off bed. Okay.
So here's like right the judgment call. We are still obviously defense. We're still defending the payload, and here's basically is a judgment call. Do we have one more fight or not? If we have, like if we do not have one more fight, 3 players on payload, we just push it through it, and we just, I don't know, make sure to slow them down or like just win a scrappy fight on point. But we just say, hey, we literally push it through and hope to not get a full fight. This is one idea. If we say no, which I think here is a clear decision, no, they definitely have the option to group up and come back as 6. This obviously means for us the same thing. We obviously now position for the next fight. Like, what's the best position for the next fight? We know the fight will happen somewhere around this area, or the point of attention will be there. So that means obviously for me, who is the best character to be in the open spot and push payload in this case? Orisa, right? Like just the safest thing.
Yeah.
Who does it? Where's the safest position in this whole area? Ignore the widow for now. I guess here, right? I think a super safe position. I think so much cover. This is for me the sand spot. And now, after we have the sand spot and the resource spot, we can be creative. Does a Sigma want to play aggressive because he has flux? Go there. If you want to say, hey, I want to play defensive, maybe with Sen, play here. What's with our Hanzo? And we want to have a little bit of a flanky route, then if he wants to, he can push this maybe. If not, he can also, I don't know. So many options, right? How how we want to set up the next fight. Depends obviously extremely on what our plan is, ultimate-wise, what the ultimates they have, and so on.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I would think about it. Okay. But besides this, like, let's make it another exercise. Like, right, we have like perfect ult tracking. Let's just ignore the widow. It's just easier this way.
Yeah.
What could be the next fight plan? Or what could be a fight plan for the next fight?
I would say we use window and flux, so we can window top left as they walk out and pressure them as they try to touch payload, and then follow up with flux when they have used their cooldowns to deal with the window.
Is this or like, yeah, what do the others think?
I think that sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah, I would say so too, right? Like, we have obviously, to just check it real quick, we have the what, window and flux, the when. Obviously in this case, I mean, the baptiste is speaking, so obviously you talk about your own ult, perfect. You also say like where and when they we use the window.
Yeah.
And then obviously the flux, I mean, sure, this is the follow-up one for this. Perfect. Another thing what we could include, and okay, I will tell you again, like, right, like, this is the first thing we need to learn, and this is what we should focus on. I will tell you something now which I think you shouldn't focus on in games yet, but just to hear that. When we talk about kind of this first stage here, plan, when we talk about the what, like, to get this part, what goes on in your head is always kind of this freeway. The first thing we think about, we just think about, we don't even say it, we just think about is like, what do we have? What ultimates do we have, and how do we win the fight? Then the second thing is, we think we should at least think about what they have. What will they do in the fight? And then the third thing is kind of the counter, or like the actual plan. And this is the only thing we actually communicate to your team. Like, this is actually what comes out here. What's the what? This is like what we communicate. Completely fine. And I would also definitely encourage you to only do this. Oh, what the hell? It's always green. To only do this at the start, because especially practicing new strategy, I had to think about so much. It's best to just mostly focus on this. That's why I'm saying, when you're comfortable with this here, and this is fine, also the strategy and so is okay. What you can include then later is kind of a little bit the way what they do, and how to kind of maybe counter it. Because what we could include here basically is we window flux aggressively, and basically all the things that you said, and we can say, hey, and we want to trans their flux afterwards. Always say, hey, you know what? We just want to like window flux immediately and even push afterwards, so they cannot even, and use the trans to follow up, because we know we want to like finish the fight off quickly or something like this. We're not even going too much for the spam idea. We just mostly, I don't know, just want to rush them over with the ultimates. I don't know, things like this. Yeah. Okay. Then let's look at the execution. Obviously the widow here is super annoying. Like, how do we deal with this? I mean, we just have to put some resources towards it, right? Like, or like, do you want to talk about the widow thing?
I just kind of got gapped on it. We went at the wrong time. We didn't do it together.
Yeah. Right, like, I think obviously we can just say, hey, yeah, our Sen and Widow deal with it, which I think is a reasonable choice.
Yeah.
What we can also just say is, hey, I don't know, Risa push payload, Baptiste, Sigma, and so go back, take care of the, like, all of us basically go back instead of 1. We finish the Widow as 5. Hopefully nobody dies, but then we have a 6 versus 5, right? We give up the space, what we did before here, what I criticized you for, where kind of we gave up space, or we didn't take space for no reason. I think now it's reasonable for us to say, you know what, we could position us really well, but we just take the free kill, because then it will be the 5 versus 6, and we value the 5 versus 6 higher than our position. And especially if it's a widow who is like super annoying, okay, let's do this one-shot things. I would just do this, say, hey, let's just all go back. Obviously, instead of 1, the Risa can push a little bit more. Obviously, if they push now, or Risa runs away, obviously. Kill the widow, get the 5 versus 6, and then take space again. But yeah.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard. Cease your resistance.
Shout her. opinions. What do you think we did really well? What do you think we could have done better?
I mean, okay, so again, like ignoring the widow, I think we like took pretty decent positions. Like maybe we shouldn't have had Bap and Hansa in the same place.
Mhm.
And then I think we also shouldn't have bongoed and windowed at the same time.
Okay. Why not? I want that we understand it. Why should we not have bongoed and windowed at the same time?
I feel like it's overkill, and bongo can be used can be used really well to generate other ults like very quickly. So if we
Yeah.
shouldn't overlay them.
Sure.
Like if we're gonna kill something, we're just
Yeah.
gonna get it with window. The
Yeah.
bongo's not really gonna like add anything to it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they sort of do the same thing and they power us up in the same way. So we don't need to use them both at the same time because we're already stronger than them in the spam damage area. So we
Yep.
don't need to use both at the same time when we're already stronger than them.
Yeah, completely agree with all of your points that you said. One other really strong argument, in my opinion, is we use obviously these ultimates to force a reaction. Like the reaction is either they go back from this position, or they have to use more resources to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Both happens with one of those ultimates. Like it doesn't matter if it's just a window or just a bongo, they still have to use a grasp. And the shitty thing maybe is at characters like Sigma or Diva with grasp and so on, it doesn't matter how much damage we do.
Yeah.
It's still the same. So yeah, this window basically forces it anyways, so it doesn't really matter if we have more. Exactly. And Envy just mentioned, this was the second point you mentioned, obviously, right? Like we don't want to do it together. We can start with the bongo if we want, or we can start with window. Like I don't really mind so much, but I don't think both together, at least not at the same angle. This is the point. This is another thing. Obviously, bongo is wherever. The second thing is what you mentioned, right? We don't want to stack together here, all of us.
Yeah.
And why? And like why not? And Envy basically just answered it already. Is I always like the example because it's super. People like love this or like understand it. Imagine we have like 5 Bastion players here who like literally in turret form and shoot in this direction. Obviously, everything melts that goes here. But I mean, do we really expect the enemy team to be like that? Maybe dumb to just also like push it here. Obviously, they only will do it with things like Flux and Grasp and so on. But what I'm saying is that this window and so on is not really the thing that gets kills. This window is basically like a dragon that removes this area. But where we get kills is obviously from here or from here, because if we dragon or if we window there, I mean the Baptiste or like the Hanzo here, he has to hide, or they use obviously significantly more cooldowns, which is also fine for us. But he will hide here. So the actual kill move comes from here, or in a different situation from here, right? If we window in the middle. That's why,
Yeah.
and basically the only thing we need to ask ourselves now, okay, like how much damage do we actually need for them to hide? And in reality, it is mostly a Baptiste alone is almost enough to force somebody like a Hanzo or like a Baptiste to hide, because it's just so much damage, and obviously we are playing on a level where we can expect Baptiste players to obviously be also a significant threat. On Silver League, I would say, okay, you have to put at least 3 players here to be significant, but I think on our level, we can say 1 Baptiste is
Yes.
enough to one-shot, or like not to one-shot, but to significant, right? So they will hide. So 1 Baptiste is in theory always already enough, but then we have here obviously even more potential to actually get the kills. Does it make sense?
Yes, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Like that's, I think, a really important point why, even though we have the window and we think, oh, like, oh, look, I have to do more damage. Yeah, but it doesn't really matter how much damage we do here. We already are the threat. We're already forcing them to hide. The kill point, like the killing shot, comes from somewhere here, or I don't know, from I guess here if we hide from here with the window. And that's where we want to stay. So to summarize, 1 ultimate at a time. Or obviously, like, right, if they say, hey, 2 ultimates, sorry, just two ultimates are fine. If they, I don't know, also window here, or if they also bongo, or if they, I don't know, do something else, right? Like if they really push here, then we say, okay, look, they have too much cooldowns, we just double, or I don't know, whatever, right? Like situationally, or like if they beat things like this, or if they also like use something specifically, and then we can definitely also use 2 ultimates. It's completely okay. And the other thing is then I would just say, as Anvi set up completely perfectly, either you go, I guess, this angle or this angle, depends how you feel. And if you say, hey, I like to play more on the right side, but with my Sigma, then we can also say, hey, Sigma, play with me here. Baptiste stays here alone. He can't bongo. Oyza stays here, right? And then we just window here still. And Sigma Hanzo push from here. This is perfect because we still have double healing also. So I think this would be a great move. Or we just say, you know what? We just want a Sigma here to shield the Baptiste because we still are scared from one-shots. And our NV just flanks from... obviously, I'm talking about this flank here.
Okay.
And this is obviously completely situational, depending on if you're scared to window here, or if you know from experience, like, hey, I always get, I don't know, it's a bad time. I want more protection. I want more help. Right? That's why we can communicate these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. I think we have to go now.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
True. Then, right, perfect. Right. But again, as always, like especially today, again, like big pile of information. I hope you're able to slide this down, which is not easy. Maybe make even some notes, which would be great. Because again, we talked about a lot of things. Also, like details again.
Yeah.
Pick out whatever this is, one thing for you personally. Obviously, I know try is an important thing. This is our goal, but maybe I just want to say, right, if you practice things also for your own individually, don't try to implement everything together. Make it step by step. All right, perfect. Then have fun in the scrims, and hopefully next time we are all 6 together.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.